The morning she handed me the envelope, the fog was still sitting low over the bay. That's the thing about San Francisco. It doesn't care what's happening in your kitchen. It just does what it always does. Slow, gray, indifferent. Beautiful in a way that doesn't ask for your opinion. My name is Ralph Hust, and on Friday, April 3rd, 2023, my wife of 2 years set a manila envelope next to my coffee mug without breaking stride. My lawyers drafted something, she said. She didn't look up from her phone. I looked at the envelope. Her firm's letterhead on the label, crisp, ready, the kind of document that had been prepared long before this morning. A prenuptial agreement, she said. The way you'd say the dry cleaning's ready, flat, logistical. I know the timing isn't ideal, but we've been married 2 years, Ralph, which is exactly why we need clarity going forward. She smiled, that particular smile that never quite reached her eyes. Take your time reading it. My lawyers are available if you have questions. She picked up her bag, walked to the door, didn't kiss me goodbye. She hadn't done that in 7 months. I'd counted. The door clicked shut. I sat with the envelope for a while. 11 pages, her signature already on page 9. Her lawyer's contact cards paperclipped to the front like this was a real estate closing, and I was just supposed to initial and move on. I read every word slowly, and somewhere around page 6, where my assets were described as unverified and presumed minimal, something shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Clarity. But this story doesn't start on that Friday morning. It starts 3 years earlier, a Wednesday night in late February 2020, when Mildred Voss walked into my life wearing a black dress and a smile that probably had terms and conditions I hadn't read yet. Stanford Alumni Mixer, San Francisco. The kind of room where everyone's networking or pretending they're not. I was standing near the back by the shrimp cocktail, because that's where the real people stand. She found me. I know that now. You're not working the room, she said. I looked around. Neither are you, she laughed. Not the practiced kind you hear at these events, a real one. And we talked for 2 hours. She was sharp, dry, the kind of funny that doesn't announce itself. CEO of a mid-sized logistics firm called Vosscore. Investor-backed, growing fast. She looked at me like I was a puzzle she hadn't solved yet. I should have recognized that look. I've used it myself. Here's what Mildred thought she knew about Ralph Hust that February night. Comfortable consultant, nice apartment, sensible shoes, low-key by nature. Here's what was actually true. 3 years before I met her, I'd sold a supply chain software company I'd built over 9 years, quietly, privately, to a private equity firm in Chicago. No press release, no LinkedIn announcement. I signed the papers, went home, ordered a deep dish pizza, and watched a documentary about penguins. That was it. Money that makes noise attracts problems. I'd watched enough men implode chasing recognition to understand something simple. The quietest man in the room is usually the most dangerous one. Mildred thought she was dating a comfortable, low-profile consultant. She was dating a man who held stakes in 11 companies, owned real estate across 4 continents through holding entities she'd never heard of, and hadn't told a single person his actual net worth in years. We dated 14 months. She introduced me at her company galas as her brilliant, low-key partner, like I was some kind of artisanal accessory. I wore the role well. Khaki pants, modest watch, nothing flashy. My old friend Dave pulled me aside at one of those galas, 6 weeks before the wedding. She introduces you like a prop, he said. She's proud of me, Dave. He set his glass down. She introduces her company's Q3 results with more warmth than she introduces you. I laughed it off. Saturday, May 22nd, 2021. We got married, small ceremony, 22 people. Her idea, fog sitting low over the bay. Her investors sent flowers, expensive ones. I remember thinking, why would investors send wedding flowers? I filed that thought away. I file everything. The first year of marriage was good. I mean that sincerely. Then came month 18. Sunday, November 9th, 2022. She was at the office. I was home, reviewing documents at the kitchen table. We shared a household drive, tax records, insurance, standard stuff. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for our homeowner's insurance renewal and took a wrong turn through a subfolder labeled Archive. There it was. A document titled, Exit strategy. R. I opened it, read it twice, then sat very still for about 4 minutes, which, if you know me, is 4 minutes longer than I sit still for anything. 12 pages. Clinical. Thorough. Our marriage laid out as an asset management structure. A 5-year timeline. Year 2. Consolidate joint accounts. Year 3. Expand her public asset base. Year 5. Initiate dissolution. And on page 7, a name. Brett Calloway, partner at Voscor. Smooth hair, firm handshake, had shaken my hand at 3 company dinners. Always called me buddy. I closed the laptop, went to the kitchen, made pasta from scratch, opened a bottle of Napa Red, set 2 places at the table, and sitting there in the quiet of that kitchen, I understood something almost worse than the betrayal itself. She hadn't chosen me in spite of my invisibility. She'd chosen me because of it. I gave her nothing to read. That's the discipline most people can't manage. The moment you change, the moment she senses even a slight shift in temperature, everything unravels, and Mildred could read a room the way most people read large print. Effortlessly. Instantly. So I smiled, showed up, poured the wine, asked about her board meetings, and every Saturday morning I drove to a small office in the financial district, paid for in cash through a management company she'd never heard of, and quietly built the board she didn't know existed. She thought my office was our kitchen table. That was the point. The morning after she dropped the envelope, I called the one man I should have called 5 months earlier, William Tanner, my attorney, old friend, sharp in a way that doesn't advertise itself. "Bull," I said, "I need you in San Francisco." "How bad?" he asked. I looked out at the bay, fog just beginning to lift. "It's about to get that good." Bull landed the next morning, walked into my office carrying a legal pad, a gas station coffee, and the expression of a man who already knew this was going to be interesting. I told him everything: the mixer, the file, the timeline, the prenup landing on my kitchen table like a grenade wearing a lawyer's letterhead. He didn't interrupt. That's rare for Bull. The man interrupts judges. When I finished, he leaned back and stared at the ceiling. "She documented it," he said quietly. 12 pages, I said. "That's either arrogance or stupidity." "Both," I said, "which is exactly what we're going to use." He picked up his legal pad. "What do you want?" I slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. He read it. His eyebrows climbed slowly, the way they do when Bull Tanner, who has genuinely seen everything, sees something new. "You've been sitting on this since November." "I've had time to think." He looked at the paper one more time. Then he did something I hadn't seen him do in 15 years. He smiled. "Let's build something," he said. The first move was a new holding entity. Bull registered it in Delaware over a weekend. We called it Harland Ridge, LLC. Clean. Boring. The kind of name that makes accountants yawn and lawyers stop reading. Boring names hide interesting things. Through Harland Ridge, routed through a secondary holding company that connected to it the way a shadow connects to a man, I acquired a 12% stake in Voscor, her company, her centerpiece, the asset she was most determined to protect from me. Bull spread the purchase across 3 tranches so no single transaction tripped a disclosure flag. Clean, invisible, boring on paper. About 8 weeks after she dropped that prenup on my kitchen table, I owned a quiet piece of the very company she was planning to protect from me. She made me dinner that evening and called me her favorite person. I told her she was full of surprises. That fall, Bull called on a Thursday morning. No greeting. "Brett Calloway," he said. I sat down my coffee. He runs a personal investment fund on the side, 8 LPs. He's been quietly shopping for someone to anchor a second raise. Quietly, I said. My favorite word. "How much to anchor?" $2 million. He'd take less from the right partner. "Become the right partner," I said. "Arm's length, Bull. 3 layers minimum. He cannot know it's me." A pause. "Ralph?" "He called you buddy." "To your face. 3 times. 4 layers." Bull actually laughed. First time in months. By early winter, I was a silent limited partner in Brett Calloway's personal investment fund. The man whose name was on page 7 of my wife's exit strategy, the man who'd shaken my hand and called me buddy, was now, completely unknowingly, in business with me. Take a second with that. By January 2024, here's what the board looked like. Harland Ridge, holding 12% of Voscor. Two of Voscor's largest freight suppliers, both carrying my capital. And Brett Calloway's fund, anchored 4 layers deep by Ralph Hust. Mildred was having her best quarter yet. Voscor was growing, her board was happy, her investors were patient. She had no idea the foundation under everything she'd built had a different owner. She was standing on my floors and calling it her house. Friday, April 3rd, 2024. Exactly 1 year to the day after she dropped that envelope. Bull called at 9 a.m. Everything's in position. You want me to start the counter document? Not a counter, I said. A revelation. I want her lawyers to sit down when they open it. 2 weeks later, Bull walked into my office carrying 47 pages. Her prenup had been 11. She brought a knife. I came back with a different kitchen entirely. The response came from her lead attorney, Gary Ostroff, senior partner, 23 years in family law. A man who, by reputation, had seen absolutely everything. Bull told me the call lasted 6 minutes. Mr. Tanner, Ostroff said carefully, your client's holdings are considerably more substantial than previously understood. Yes, Bull said. They are. Mr. Hust would like to revisit the terms of the prenuptial agreement. Bull looked across the desk at me. I shook my head. Once the terms are hers, Bull said, Mr. Hust wouldn't change a word. Long silence. I see, Ostroff said finally. I'll be in touch. Bull hung up. Looked at me. How do you feel? I thought about a Sunday night in November 2022, a clean font on a document that was never meant for my eyes, a ceiling I'd stared at while the woman beside me slept and dreamed of year 5. Hungry, I said. Let's go to Clement Street. She came home early that Wednesday afternoon. That was the first sign. Mildred never came home early, but there she was, mid-afternoon, sitting at the kitchen table in Pacific Heights. No blazer, no laptop, no phone in her hand, just sitting. I walked in, set my keys on the counter. You're home early. She looked at me for a long moment. Really looked, the way she used to, back at the beginning, like I was a puzzle she hadn't solved yet. Gary called me, she said. Everything okay? Ralph. She exhaled slowly. Harland Ridge. I opened the refrigerator, took my time. What about it? How long? The kitchen was very quiet. Outside, San Francisco was doing its thing. Traffic on Broadway, the distant foghorn off the bay, the whole ordinary world moving like nothing had happened. Since November 2022, I said. She closed her eyes, just for a second, long enough for me to see the calculation happening behind them. The file, she said quietly. The file, I said. She stood, walked to the window, stood there with her back to me, looking out at the street below. You never said anything. Neither did you. Silence. Longer this time. What do you want, Ralph? Quieter now. What do you actually want? I looked at her for a long moment. I thought about the real answer. Not the legal one. I had wanted a real marriage. I had wanted the woman I met at that mixer in February 2020, the one who laughed before I finished the joke. But that woman had been a performance, and you can't want back something that never existed. Nothing you haven't already offered, I said. The prenup stands, your terms, every word. She stared at me, waiting for the catch. You have 12% of my company, I do, and the suppliers. Brett. 4 layers, I said. But yes. She shook her head slowly. Not in anger, something closer to disbelief. You built all of that, she said, while living here, while having dinner with me, while walking the Presidio on Sunday mornings like everything was fine. You were planning year 5, I said. I was planning the rest of the board. She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that the fog coming in off the bay had shifted, slow and indifferent, the way it always does in the late afternoon, covering everything it touches. When she spoke again, her voice was composed, controlled. The CEO I'd always known, but her eyes were different. "I underestimated you," she said. I held her gaze. "Yes," I said. "You did." She nodded once, picked up her bag, walked out of the kitchen. I heard the front door close. I stood at the window for a while, looking out at the same street she'd just looked at. It didn't feel like winning. Not exactly. It felt like something ending that should have ended differently from the very beginning. I poured a glass of water, drank it, standing at the sink. Then I called Bull. "She knows," I said. "How'd she take it?" I thought about that for a second. "Like herself," I said. "Right up until the end." The formal dissolution proceedings began the following week.